I always talk about mommy issues, but I have daddy issues too. My dad was a great man, served in the army, worked for Ford for 34 years, but he had a specific type of woman that he liked. When we grew up around East Cleveland, which was at that time, which was like considered a suburb, there were great women in the neighborhood. Hard-working women, women that ran the households, women that did the parties, the block parties, made sure we went to baseball practice, football practice. They were women of the household. They ran the household, and the men back then in the '70s went to work, came home, brought the money, brought the food and stuff like that. But what happened was there was a shift for me, and the shift came. It happened when my parents got divorced. And so my mom was a great woman too, a provider, a protector, and all of that, a teacher, a leader. She was the reason why I was in the Cub Scouts. She was the reason why I played baseball and things like that. And so when my parents' divorce happened, I I was sent to move and live with my dad. And so then I saw a different shift in the women that he liked. And so at that time I was 11 to 12 years old. And then when I turned 13, I started, seeing the women that he was dating or even sleeping with. And I noticed some things. My father always liked the type of women that like to smoke, drink, fight, and have sex. The women that he had down in the inner city of Cleveland, Ohio, on Huff, were the ones that like to smoke, drink, fight, and have sex. And so I used to see that, and so I became comfortable with that. And so what happened to me, I started emulating the type of women that my dad dated or the type of women that he liked, the type of women that he was comfortable with. I learned in therapy that she told me that I like women to rely on me, but then when they relied on me, I would get upset. And I didn't understand that. And so we talked about it. But I wanted a woman to stroke my ego and feed into my grandiose mindset, to cater to me, to uplift me, to do everything for me, but I wasn't doing much for her. But maybe buying gifts and buying the liquor and the cigarettes and all of this stuff. I never smoked weed, right? Cigars, all of that. So those were the women that I started liking because my dad was liking those type of women. He could come and go as he pleased. They never challenged him. They never talked to him because he was providing for them, and they provided sex, alcohol, and his cigarettes. And so he was happy with that. And so I became happy with the bare minimum of giving to a woman, and then expecting her just to give me either the bare minimum, or if she wanted more, I would have a problem with that. But I wanted her to rely on me, but I didn't want her to rely on me. So I was confusing women. And this all came out when I was 46 years old in therapy. And so there was three women that I remember in my dad's life. The time that my parents got divorced from 1979 to 1999 when my dad died. He died from alcoholism. One lady, we'll just call her Erlene, right? She smoked cigarettes. She stayed in the house. She went to work. She came home. And we lived in an apartment building in front of, our apartment was downstairs in front of hers. So every now and then my dad would disappear, right? Then he would go see, we would find out where he was with Erlene. And so she was just a good-natured woman, didn't do much, didn't cause much of a ruckus, but she drank beer and she smoked cigarettes, and they had sex. And so there was another lady that my father wound up being with for 16 years. She was a crackhead, but he loved her, and he wound up dying in 1999, but he was still kind of with her or chasing her around. She didn't provide him anything, nothing but a bunch of grief, heartache, and pain. She smoked cigarettes, she drank beer, and she did crack from probably 1984 to 1999. My dad died. But I noticed when my Aunt Marie would always want to hook my dad up with with a good woman, he didn't want the good, wholesome women that would come over looking for my dad. She would ask me, hey, Double O, it's my nickname, Double O, where's your dad at? Before she would get there, he knew she was coming because my aunt would tell him, hey, Leon, Stephanie's coming to see you. And he would tell me, hey, man, if Stephanie come over, tell her I want to see her. And I was like, but you back there with Mr. Erlene smoking cigarettes, drinking beer, and he was cool with that. Miss Stephanie would come over in a nice Buick, had a long trench coat on. Her hair was always long and flowing. She had on lipstick, earrings, perfume. She always gave me money. My dad didn't want that type of woman. And so later on in life, I would struggle with good, wholesome, strong women. I didn't want the good, wholesome, strong women. I wanted the women that wanted to drink, smoke, have sex, and fight, and repeat it over and over and over again. And that's what I started to like, because my dad, he was a great man, don't get me wrong, but my dad, I emulated his dating pattern, And so the woman that he wound up, when he died in 1999, she was gone by that time. She hadn't been gone that long, but she was a crack addict. And so he was giving her money, and he loved that woman. He loved that woman more than the other women that he loved. Erlene, who was just drinking and or smoking her little cigarettes, and she'd come to work, he'd go to work, come home, and hey, where's your dad at? I go get my dad. He'd go right upstairs with Erlene, and he'd be gone for the night. And then when Stephanie come over, just, really, really nice, smelling good, hair done, perfume on, lipstick, earrings, nice shoes, nice purse, sharp lady, hardworking, had a degree. My dad didn't want that. And so I started emulating that later on in life. I didn't want those women that were wholesome, that had the parents were still married, they had morals, they had character, they had integrity. I didn't want that, because I knew that was something that I wasn't used to. And I would see my dad with these other women and they just smoke, drink, fight, and start over. And it was in the hood. So he was comfortable with that. And so the other women that I would meet throughout my life, and even my friends would try to hook me up with women that, yo, man, she cool, she got a degree, she don't have any kids, she don't drink, she don't smoke. And I'd be like, uh, found that kind of boring. But those were the best women for me. But I wasn't attracted to that. I was attracted to drama. I was attracted to their hurt and their pain. And that was a trauma bond that I was experiencing in my 20s and 30s. And I didn't realize it, but it was like we're doing stuff for each other. We're making each other happy. We were ghosting each other. We were discarding each other, but I was cool with the drama, going back and forth. And so my daddy issues come from me noticing the type of women that my dad dated. And they were not putting women down, but they were women that he could afford to lose, but he didn't want to lose those. Even the crackhead woman he was with, he was in love with this crackhead lady, and I just didn't understand it. And for years, me and my sister, my brother, we fought it, but we couldn't pull him away from that because that was his dating style, that was his dating pattern, and I emulated that throughout my life. And I had good women in my life. And when I had good, strong women in my life, I would run away. I would hide. I would, ghost them. I didn't want to show up because I couldn't deal with a strong, wholesome woman that had her stuff together. I wanted somebody that had to depend on me. And then when they depended on me, I would get upset. I would do something for them and then take it back. I would say, hey, if you need anything, let me know. And they call, hey, Lee, damn, girl, you always ask for, well, you told me to ask you, then I get mad. But then I like that, So it was like a power struggle for me within myself. But, the women that I met down on Huff, they were also, the type of women that my father liked, even the younger girls, Those women, I saw them get beat. I saw them get abused, disrespected, neglected, and they would still come around to these men that were abusing them and beating them up and giving them drugs and misusing them, And so I was like, it was kind of strange because I would see those women as somebody that I could be with. And down on Huff in that bad area, we never saw like women that were always like CEOs or principals or teachers. They were always either needing a man, relying on a man, wanting a man for beer, wanting a man for cigarettes, wanting a man for weed, wanting a man for crack. And so those were the type of women that I became accustomed to dealing with. Even when I would travel in the military, go overseas, they tell us where not to go. Don't go to the bad areas because there's prostitutes over there, there's violence over there. But that's what I was drawn to. Not only was I emulating my dad's dating style, but I was emulating my dad's environment too. Even overseas, we go over there. I'm like, boom, I want to go right to the hood. It wasn't about drugs, but we will go right to the hood, go to the brothel. There's going to be a fight over there. It's going to be a bar, a bunch of liquor, a bunch of women, a bunch of music, a bunch of smoking. So that's what I was addicted to. I was attracted to that. And so my daddy issues come from what I saw in my dad and the type of women that he dated and the type of women that he liked, the type of women that he paid into, the type of women that he was attracted to. So those are my daddy issues. And when I did get a good woman, a strong woman, educated woman, a woman that dressed nice, a woman that didn't drink or didn't smoke, I thought she was quite boring, And so, yeah, it took me a long time to get out of that. But it was something that I was addicted to because it made me feel good. It gave me a sense of power or a sense of control by dating somebody that was just like me, broken, dysfunctional, rather she was narcissistic or not. I was comfortable with that. I was comfortable with being who I was as far as a broken young man and a broken older man. And I didn't want to change that because I was still being kind of successful with those issues. And so those are my daddy issues. All right. Thank you all. Have a great night.